So here we are. Here we are, and we're live. And thank you very much, Kathleen, for appearing as a guest on Cut the Shit podcast. I must admit, this podcast or this episode has been uh, it's been different to every episode I've recorded already because we've known each other for quite a long time, and you're a person that's known me for 5 years.
Wow, is it that long?
It's that long,
Shit.
and you know all my deepest, darkest secrets, and you're somebody that helped me through some of the darkest times and most difficult times and transitional times in my life. And I think, well, we have spoken about this before, where the stigma and the view about sort of coaching and life coaching and therapy in England, especially the UK, is different to everywhere else in the planet. I think it's improving very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but I think anything that we can do to sort of open that up to people that might be in a similar position to what I was in, if it helps one person, it's 100% worth it. So for those that are listening, that don't know you and don't know what life coaching is about, yeah, tell them about yourself. Tell them what the whole script is.
Oh God. Um, Life coaching. Yeah, it's kind of hard to sum up, and I've been thinking about it as we come on to as I it's for starters, it's so lovely to be on the other side. So usually you used to call into me and I hold the space for you, and now I'm calling into you and you're holding the space for me, and it's actually quite moving.
Oh, thank you. It's
Yeah, I feel so happy to see you so happy
don't
because
you don't set me off.
you've been through a really difficult time and you are a hero, right? And you've transformed yourself multiple times through your life, and like a phoenix, literally. And I can relate to that because I've done that too, and I maybe that's why we're still connected. A lot of my clients, after I've stopped coaching them for a year or two, I don't connect to them, but you and I, we reach out to each other. And so it is really lovely to see you have, you went through the eye of the needle and you came out the other side, and in this new incarnation. And I think that is so important for people to know that that is possible,
Yeah,
and that you know that you are proof of it, that I am proof of it. And when you start to look, you can see that actually a lot of people are doing that, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to be down and to
yeah,
have struggle, and because out of that comes the clarity. I don't want this, I do want that. And then we need support. We need support, right? We
yeah.
need to find support.
It's a diff. I'm from my own personal experience. It's a very, you know what I'm like as a person, and if I'm not doing anything, it's probably the worst thing in the world for me because I need to be doing something. I need to have a project. I need to be moving forward in some capacity.
Uh-huh.
And for probably 2 years, it was stasis. It, and it wasn't. It was almost like a self-imposed stasis as well, which was even worse. My own worst enemy. But it was sort of that search for throughout the therapeutic journey, that search for purpose and that search for meaning. And I was speaking on a previous episode with Doran about the feeling from being a young age of sort of destiny. I'm destined to do something, and what is that thing? And it's been a 37-year long search, and then when you think you find it, and then it turns out not to be that thing, and then ultimately you're sort of left in limbo, wondering what the hell do I do, and you sort of sat twiddling your thumbs and sort of struggling, and you provided me with the tools that allowed me to carry on down that sort of path and not flinch and not cave and not think, well, I'll just go and get a job here and I'll just go and do that because this needs to be done and that needs to be done and that needs to be paid. And I think anybody that's in that position, persistence in the pursuit of something as important as purpose is it's second to nothing. It's got to be the first thing on everybody's list, is that purpose. And yeah, like if it wasn't, I think I messaged you in terms of coming onto the podcast, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be holding this space for you to come on and talk about this stuff. I just wouldn't be here. I'd be doing something else. And you know, if I can help provide that to one other person, it's 100% worth it. All the effort, all the time, all the expense, or whatever it may be, is
Mhm.
100% worth it. So yeah, it's I hope through the audio and through the screen, my gratitude is exuding. It's there to all
It
see.
is, Lewis.
Thank you.
But
So ultimately, from people, helping people in that sort of transitional period, what do you find? Like, do you find, and I don't mean to sound this derogatory, do you find it's almost like people that have ran out of options and ran out of ideas and ran out of motivation that find you and come to you? Or is it all from every sort of aspect?
usually people find, yeah, they find me when they've tried themselves for, and they've tried different routes in the past, maybe for many years even, and they're on the edge of giving up. And that's when people find me. And so, because the easy option is to give up on the thing that you want, right? It's to know that there's a thing that you want and hope that it's possible, and try and fail and try and fail and try and fail. It's very difficult for the ego, for our identity, to cope with that. So it's too painful. Like, what's wrong with me? I should have mastered this by now. I shouldn't be in this position. I should know better. Something's wrong with me, right? And so that is very hard for us to be with. So it's the first thing that we do is we drop the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, obviously, I'm not meant to have that. It's not meant for me. I'm just going to live a life without that.
Yeah.
And that could be money. Usually it's health, money, or relationships.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, people have kind of tried everything, and then they find me, and then and that's one of the very first things that we do is, so what I was thinking when I came is soothing the person, like, it's all right, you're in the right place, everything's going to be, soothing them, because people are so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And then the second one is teaching people how powerful they are, but we're not using the power in the right way. Once you turn your power and turn it on, rather than use it to beat yourself up, you're already literally 50% of the way
That,
towards having what you want.
I think, from like obviously me personally experiencing for a long time the sort of tools and techniques that you use, there's I mentioned just before we started recording, the wouldn't it be nice technique that you use, is I use it daily, in terms of and more so now, because I'm going in to speak to people, and people are coming to me to speak about things that I'm not the I've always been, if I'm speaking to somebody about a subject, you know maybe egotistically, but not knowing, subconsciously, I know more about this subject than that person, and I become almost that the teacher role within a conversation, which I'm happily I will always happily do, and not from a place of I'm better than you, but it's like, look, think about this and think about that, and I do constantly teach the lessons that you taught me to my daughter and to my partner and other people. I think I posted the other week one of the 7 levels deep exercise. That simple it is. It's bog standard, simple exercise has changed my whole life completely. And it's
Mm,
just, for those that don't know, the 7 levels deep exercise is finding out or or speaking into existence exactly what you think you want. And for me, from the moment we ever first met, it was always money. Money, money was the thing that was my motivator. Um, also, I thought it was. And then one exercise of the 7 levels deep, and it turned out it wasn't money at all. It was freedom, which is what I
mm.
want. And there's, even though money can buy you freedom to an extent, there is so many different ways and different routes and different paths towards freedom. Whereas there's only really one path towards money.
That's
So
brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's something so simple,
Hmm.
but I commend you and the sort of style of coaching that you've got, because it's simple things like that sometimes when you're in that place of turmoil, or in that place of sort of limbo, you can't, you like you said, to soothe people. As soon as you can soothe, you can then think clearly again, rather than letting your mind run away with you, and you can't think clearly, and then it's like that eureka moment as soon as that soothing happens. So yeah, for me, I'd say that was that's the number one takeaway for me, was the little techniques like that really, really, really helped.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the little things that we don't know that really make a difference. And I think we need to be receptive to hearing them. Someone said this, a really good a lady said this to me last week. What is it that you're not hearing? And but yeah, like that was so beautifully described. There was two things you described there. One is calming the fight or flight uh, system down and moving into where you're calm. And then now, because the fight or flight is a focused, right? You're
yeah.
focused. You're like you're looking at the cheetah and it's coming right at you, and there you shouldn't be looking anywhere else because the cheetah is coming. And but the problem with that is that's great. And then what we want is what we want to be expanded. Like there's no cheetah coming, so I can look over here, and I can take in all of, oh look, there's some nice vegetables over, there's people,
Yeah.
and then we can receive, and then we can receive the bit that's missing. We can hear the help we need. We can, and ultimately what I realize ultimately I do as a coach is train people to really be able to listen and hear their own inner wisdom. So not even
Mm.
the external wisdom, but the inner wisdom. So there's, and the other thing that you said that I was also going to bring up was this thing of essence energy. So, and that was exactly what you just described. Like initially people, they want this, right? I want the money. And I remember doing this with you, it was a long
Yeah.
time ago. I said, if you had the money, how would you feel? And then you said freedom, because it's the essence energy. And like you say, there's only one way, or there's many ways to get the money. But if what you really want is that essence energy of freedom, there's so many ways. And so
Yeah.
you open up immediately the routes and the paths to be able to experience that now.
Yeah. And I must admit, I think probably it it's difficult, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's the worst time of my life, because I have been through more harrowing experiences. However, harrowing, it probably is the worst prolonged period of my life that's been over the past probably 2-3 years, in terms of the fact that
Uh,
I've had I've had to be fucking patient. I've had to sit and wait, and not try and force something, and trust the fact that it will come when it's ready, and it'll come not necessarily when it's ready, it's when I'm ready. And
mhm.
I think I've had to have that 2 or 3 years to sort of decompress from what I thought I was,
Yeah.
which ultimately turns
That's
out
not
that
easy.
that's not what I was, and I've been doing that for 20 odd years. Um,
Yeah.
and now I know, and it's sort of. it is depressing. Well, not depressing, but it's a bit upsetting as well at sometimes, because I realize, and I can now see people in my life that I care about that need that same sort of time to sort of almost decompress and defrag. Yeah, I remember if you remember the old computers when they first came out, you had to defrag the computer, and it'd take hours and hours and hours just to sort of get rid of all the empty space and the things that don't serve us anymore, and the dead apps and the dead programs. And people are dragging this all the way through their life, getting to 70, 80 years old with regret because, oh, well, I could have done that at 30 odd, and I could have done this, but I had this and I had that. And, you know, people that I see it now on social media where people, you've got the Instagram influencers that drive around in Bugattis and McLarens and this, that, the other. And I, my car will get to exactly the same place your car will get to, probably a bit further because it's more economical on fuel, but mine didn't cost £200,000, and I don't need to show it off because it's not got a McLaren badge on the front of it. And the youth of today, and I keep obviously having a young daughter, trying to sort of claw that, understanding that that is the world, but at the same time trying to claw that back into something of substance. I do the "Wouldn't it be nice" with Esme every single day. So she started playing hockey about 6 months ago, and before every game, before every training session in the car, we do "Wouldn't it be nice?" And for those that don't know I mean, if you want to explain it, you'd probably do a hell of a lot more justice than I will. But it's that exercise is so good because it just shifts perspective almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to explain the
Mm-hmm.
exercise? Because I believe everybody could benefit from this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I will share it with you. But I was laughing earlier, and I'm trying not to forget what it is. I've already forgotten what it is. You said something, and I thought, oh my God, that's so important. Um, but I'm laughing because I spent a couple of days like writing down different things that I want to communicate, and then you're just bringing them up. It's like and I'm like, oh, great, that's what I was going to bring up, and I said that's really important. That's what I was going to bring up, and you're bringing it all up. But this is lovely, really, because even though this isn't a coaching session, it's like this on coaching. To remember, I want to give people a feel
Yeah,
for coaching.
it is. And
It's two people working together towards the same end. It's not me teaching you. It's not me just, where I'm listening for you, right? I'm trying to,
yeah, and I remember, I will never ever forget till the day I die the moment the moment we first spoke, because it was a 30-minute call, and I'd done CBT therapy, I'd finished my EMDR therapy, and I'd gone back to CBT therapy, and it just wasn't working for me. And I thought, you know what, I want to try life coaching because, you know, there's no other sort of therapy out there that I think would work. And subsequently, since that, you know, there's been a massive rise in sort of hypnotherapy and what's the other one? I can't remember, but there's loads of different therapies now. However, I remember booking a session, and there was 4 I had that week, and you were the third, I think. And I remember coming off that call absolutely fizzing with energy, to the point where it was like, whoa, what? And I don't think we discussed anything particularly amazing. It wasn't like sort of a profound phone call that would be quoted for the ages. But I just remember that intrinsic feeling coming off and thinking that there's no other option. Like that sort of feeling, it just felt right. And ever since then, like giving people that context of what a coaching session, especially with yourself, is like, is the fact that there's no judgment. And I know for a fact we've had sessions where I'll have just spoken for an hour and you'll have just listened, and then I feel like, oh, I've wasted that because she didn't really say anything, but it's needed at the time.
yeah,
um
yeah.
and and it does
That,
help.
that's another part. When you have a connect. So it's about connection. You need to have connection with the person,
Hmm.
and often that's all we need. That's such a big part of coaching is the connection and the welcoming. There is nothing, because where do we get that 100%? Look, no one has ever had this. We were always slightly criticized because we were being taught like the experience of having everything about you welcomed and embraced, even the problems, is so rare. There is no greater thing, I don't think, on the planet. I think it's more valuable than love.
Yeah.
When you are completely accepted and everything that you bring to the table is welcomed, there's most people have never experienced that. But
I
I just
don't think
remembered,
anybody has. I don't think anybody's
no,
experienced that. It's a very difficult, and people might turn around. Oh yeah, my mum loves me for. Yeah, she does, but she won't. My mum. I know my mum loves me, but she doesn't accept everything that I am, based on the fact that I know I can be an angry person sometimes, and I can, be narky and grumpy like a middle-aged man. But she doesn't like that part of me. She doesn't accept that part of me.
whereas in coaching, whatever you bring is right and useful and welcome, even if it's just like, okay, that's a part, but why is it showing up here today? What are we supposed to learn from this?
Yes.
What is that deep part of you that's really upset? What does it need? Like, anyway, but we're getting so excited. This always happens with you, Lewis. I remember now. I remember this is always happen. We always have too much to talk about on the call. No, the thing
We've
you
got all the
said,
time in the world. We've got
yeah, I
all the
feel
time in
quite
the world.
stressed about the time. The thing you said was another thing I wanted to bring in, which is a, and it comes down the road in coaching. It doesn't happen at the beginning, it happens later. And that is, I think this is the thing you said that I was trying to remember, aligning with what you really are meant to do.
Yeah, the
Um,
purpose and dharma is
yeah,
yeah.
and that takes a while. And you're right, most people don't really get the opportunity because that takes that's very, again, another really hard state to be in, because we're taught that we need to be producing all the time, that we need to be doing all the time, that we need to be earning all the time, and we can't just be waiting around for some kind of guidance. But
Hmm.
people know, and you can ask the simple question. I'm gonna do the 68 seconds. You can just ask people, on a scale of 1 out of 10, 10 being the best you've ever felt, most satisfied, um, where you really feel like 100% of you is being used up, and zero where there isn't any of that. Where would you place your current work? And most people will say 5 or below.
Mm.
They are not satisfied and fulfilled and being used up. And
I
I
th-
think the
I think that's one of the big things that I've sort of discovered. Since obviously we haven't had a session together for well over 12 months, I think.
we've
And
had some group sessions, but not
yeah,
a one-on-one. No.
not one on one, and obviously I've sort of carried on my therapeutic journey on my own, delving inward, and kept you updated, and you've checked in and this, that, the other, and that's, like you said, we've stayed in touch. And I think one of the things that I've realized since your coaching, it's probably helped me realize that, is, you know I think in the eyes of the world, discipline is seen almost as a hard thing to do. It's almost like a very masculine thing, is discipline. If you are disciplined, then people automatically think of the armed forces, or think of sort of boarding school, or being a teacher and pupil relationship. And it's, for me, especially over the last probably 4 years, I stopped alcohol, I stopped nicotine, caffeine. Oh, in fact, I don't think I've spoken to you since I stopped nicotine. So yeah, I've stopped nicotine as well. That was in November.
Well
Um,
done.
and it's one of those where I had this conversation the other week. In the life that you want is only an undetermined series of decisions away, made again and again and again and again and again. So if you want to stop alcohol, then you might have to, of an evening, make that decision 50 times. No, I'm not going to have a drink. No, I'm not going to have a drink. And then the day after, it might be 40 times. And then the day after, it might be 45 times. and then slowly that will decrease to the point where it was the other night I was walking out of the studio, and it stopped me in my tracks. Actually, I thought I just had a sudden urge for a whiskey that evening, and I salivated, and it was that shocking that I was like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" Because I hadn't had an especially stressful day, but when it happens that way, you've been disciplined enough to break the habit and get out of it. And I think with searching for purpose and dharma and relating it back to that is the fact that people sometimes aren't disciplined enough to do the work or take the time that's needed to determine what that is, what that purpose is, and what that dharma is. And a lot of people take that easy way out of, oh well, I'll just get a job here, and I'll settle for that, and I'll do that, and then they spend like we said 40, 50 years in a role that they might enjoy and they might like it, but it wasn't ever their purpose, it wasn't ever their dharma. And I know obviously
The
it's upsetting. It is upsetting to me because I think it's, I don't think you don't only get one go around on this thing called life. I think there's multiple facets to this existence, but you're not making the most of this aspect of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I can imagine people listening getting a little bit riled
Yeah.
about that because um, how the fuck do you do that, right? And
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how you do it because there is an answer to this. And it's literally developing your own inner listening, which we were not taught to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it. And that does require a bit of dedication. And so I'm saying that because people go, how the hell do you do that? And why would intuition help you? I'll tell you why. So I'm going to propose this. Okay. I'm going to
Okay.
propose this, that, did you hear that?
No.
That was a funny noise like gongs or
Or
music.
it might be me messing with the pod on, to be honest.
But it was incredibly well timed,
Good
right?
timing.
Yeah. Ta-da! Okay, so if you think that we have basically two aspects of our ability to get information. One is basically the left hemisphere, although it's not solely confined to the left hemisphere, but we refer to it as the left hemisphere. And this is the logical, rational side. It's the masculine side, right? And everybody knows this because we're living in it 24/7. Mm-hmm. We live in a left brain dominated society where there is good and bad, right and wrong, fast and slow, where everything is we know what to do today because we know we shouldn't do what we tried to do yesterday that didn't work, right? So this is the world that we live in, and mm-hmm. everybody knows how to do that because that's what we do. And what we originally had access to at the dawn of time was a balance of these. In fact, it wasn't probably balanced. The right brain was probably enhanced, which is using our intuition, right? Mm. Like something bad is coming. Can't see it, but I know I can feel it, right? There's a storm. Yeah. That has over the centuries completely been replaced by the dawn of science to the point where we barely know we have an instinct anymore.
It's so strange that you say it. So I had an episode with a gentleman called Adrian Rose, and he's a mycologist. And we got on to discussing psychedelics, and it was Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory. We showed a graph. In fact, I'll see if I can pull it up. It was a graph regarding the cranial sizes of early hominids up to now. I do have it if it'll open. There we go. Bear with me. So, and and his theory, or there is several theories, in terms of, if I show you, so can you see that? Um,
Well, I can see it, but I can't make sense of it because it's too small.
no, that's fine.
Uh,
So ultimately, as you see where it starts on the left hand side, it slowly, gradually increases, and then there's a sharp increase, and then another increase, and then another sharp increase, and then between Homo neanderthalis, which is the Neanderthals, and Homo sapiens, which is us, modern humans, there's a downtick.
huh.
Now, the theory is that that downtick is due to the fact that we no longer have to rely on that instinct. You
Hmm.
know, if you were in and around the Homo Neanderthals time, you had to rely on instinct, because if you put your head above the hole, a saber-toothed tiger would bite it off. So you had to sort of rely on your instincts a hell of a lot more, which,
Yeah.
whereas now we don't. We don't have to even hunt for our food. We don't even have to think about where we get our food from. We just walk down to a supermarket and, oh, I'm hungry. What do you want? Oh, well, we've got lamb, chicken, beef, pork.
Hmm.
There's no, finding. There's no actual effort goes into eating. There's no effort that goes into understanding our food anymore. We're just told what to eat. We don't even have any input in that. Exactly the same in terms of what our day to day is in terms of work wise. There's a lot of people that go to work, do a full 8 hour shift without thinking, because their manager does it for them all, or it's just the monotonous drone of doing the same thing again and again and again. And his theory, as well as others, either civil scientists or citizen scientists, as he said, is the fact that that is the sole responsible, the sole reason responsible for the downtick in brain size, which
Hmm.
kind of links in with what you were saying in terms of being left brain and right brain. If we're not having to use that right brain and intuition as much as we used to, then if you don't use something, it dies off.
It
It's
does.
atrophy.
It does. It does. And so, so what we were talking about is how do you find how do you discover the answer? How do you discover what you're looking for? And in this case, what you're meant to do, or what will at least the next phase of what you're
Yeah.
meant to do to bring you more into alignment with your own fulfillment and life path. And in the so the one is very past related, what worked in the past, because otherwise it's like every time we look at the sky, we have to make up the color, right? So
This episode is brought to you by Vanavasa Coffee. Since going caffeine free, I've realised how hard it is to find a genuinely good decaf coffee. Most of them taste flat, weak, or like they're just there to tick a box for the few of us that don't want or need that caffeine hit. But I still love coffee. The morning ritual, the warmth, the silence that comes with that first sip. And that's how I came across Vanavasa Coffee, a brand inspired by the wilderness, built around presence, purpose, and balance. Their coffees are grown all over the world and roasted right here in the UK. Each blend tells a story. I've partnered with Vanavasa Coffee because it's about more than caffeine. It's about connection and the ritual. Right now, they're inviting a small group to join before they launch. You can register your interest and get 15% off your first order by visiting cutthes.com/sponsors and clicking on Vanavasa Coffee. That's cutthes.com/sponsors and clicking on Vanavasa Coffee.
sometimes
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
useful. It's
yeah, yeah,
very, very useful, right? We need it.
yeah. Of
This
course,
left.
yeah.
But the other side is interesting because the other side is literally where we are connected to this vast. Basically, we are able to connect to all information across all time and space. And when we tap into our intuition, we are literally tapping into all information across all time and space. And that's why people can look to the past, psychically, and they can look to the future, like a thousand years in the future, like different things, and we certainly can connect to our own truth. And that's how you find the thing that you're meant to find. But that takes a little bit of work because, and it's a real simple thing, like if you leave the house and this tiny, tiny, tiny little voice in your head that says, take a pencil. And you go, no, I don't need a pencil because I've got my phone. No, just take the pencil. That's how you practice. That's the dedication. And I try and do that, right?
Yeah. That
Pick
that
that,
comes
pick, take.
it comes into that sort of synchro destiny element of sort of is it Alan Watts? I can't remember who it was, but in terms of the practice of mindfulness of every action, whatever it may be, and however innocuous it may seem,
Deepak Chopra said.
yeah, make it purposeful. So if you wake up in the morning, wake open your eyes with purpose. So tell yourself and be aware of yourself. I'm now going to open my eyes, and you open your eyes. I am now going to sit up in bed, and you sit
Hmm.
up, and doing that sort of that practice for a week will automatically, or it has for me, will automatically make you more mindful of the things that you've kind of just taken for granted. I do it all the time.
Huh.
I did it in fact last Wednesday. I'll probably do it tonight because I'm going hockey training tonight. So after hockey, I will drive home, and before I know it, and before I've taken in any of the road or any, I'll be at home and I'll think, oh right, because I'll just be on autopilot, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think that also accounts to the fact of life becomes so structured and scheduled that people do get caught up in that
Mm-hmm.
Monday to Friday, live for the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, go out for a drink with friends, and then Monday, oh, it's work again, and they go to work and drop the kids off at school, and then and even if you're talking about school, it's ingrained from then that
Mm-hmm.
it's Monday to Friday, live for Saturday, Sunday, Monday to Friday, live for Saturday, Sunday, and it's not what life's about. Life isn't only about sort of 20% of the life that you want to live, which is the weekend. The life should be the full 100%. And this was a big motivator behind doing this, is the fact that, in fact, I'll tell you the story how this came about, because not many people know this, and I might as well, uh, or where this fire started. And as you know, I've always enjoyed speaking. I've always enjoyed helping people. But this was never sort of on the radar. It wasn't a thing that I thought I could do, or two, that I had any ambition to do. And I know, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but my partner, Nick, we went for a date day at a pub near where we are that does really good food, and the gentleman that served us was a Muslim man.
Hmm.
And on our date day, mine and Nick's, I spoke to this Muslim man for about 2 hours on
Oh
on
no.
on Islam and Christianity, and it was, and don't get me wrong, Nick was involved in the conversation, but I think maybe after 30 minutes she was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake."
Yeah.
Um, but but I came out of that date day, and we had a good time at the end, and the gentleman was an awesome guy. Um, but we had such a good conversation and connection, and it doesn't mean that he's going to convert to Christianity and I'm not going to convert to Islam. But I came out and I got in the car, and I was still working in construction at the time, and I came out and I said to Nick, I said, that lights a fire. That really sort of gets me going. I really enjoy just having them meaningful conversations where I learn a bit and I can impart a bit of knowledge and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it was probably 12 months from that point where this sort of reared its head, and just by happenstance, I came across other bits and bobs, and it was just like, right, okay. The universe, as we all know, was sort of trying to usher me into this point and set me up on that task, and yeah, it's that sort of breaking down and helping to calm the soul, to be in tune with these messages that come through on a daily basis, to be able to recognize them and hear them, rather than being caught up in that monotony of life and ignoring them quite a lot.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'd say that's probably the, if not the most important thing that I think you helped me with, was
Mhm.
to convince me that I don't know everything and I need to shut up and listen.
Yeah, I worked really hard on that. Um, but and what if that was the case?
Hmm.
What if there is something pulling us? Like you said, you always felt like you were. It's a strange concept, right? To many people, that is a strange concept. What the hell would it be? I don't know what it is either, whether it's my higher self or just my hopes and dreams or whether it's something else. But what if, and more and more, I, I feel like that is there, that there is something calling me in a certain direction. And I can feel when I'm off track and I can feel when I'm on track. And it's a very different way of existence. It's in direct conflict with how we're supposed to, and how we're supposed to live. And the other thing is, you know, there is something to be said for, I mean, this is a little bit of an argument towards what you just said, which
Hmm.
is the whole, the rat race where there's a school and, because you can have all of those daily things that you do and the patterns and the routines, and they can also be very rich and fulfilling
Hmm.
when you don't zone out, when you are connected and present.
Yeah, I suppose I would alter my statement in terms of the fact in what that, it's not, there's nothing wrong with that rat race, so to speak, but what I think it does, because that comes before the enlightenment, it blocks out the message of the enlightenment, rather
Yeah,
than,
yeah, I see.
do you know what I mean, in terms
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
if you were enlightened and then that happened, it would be a lot easier and you could
Yeah.
incorporate it into your life.
Yeah,
However, it happens first, and it's like trying to listen to a phone call in a frigging disco. You can't hear it. Whereas if you
that's
took the
right.
phone call before the disco and then said, "Oh, now I'm going into the disco, I won't be able to hear you," it would make more sense. If you know what
Yeah,
I mean.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so ultimately, I think the biggest sort of lesson is that from my, or that's what you've taught me, is to shut up and listen. Um, one, and listen to myself as well. It's not just sort of listen to everybody else or the universe or whatever. It's listen, because everybody knows. Everybody deep down, if they actually look, spent time with their self, which is one of the hardest things to do.
Hmm.
Take it from somebody that's done it for the last 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, but to spend time with yourself and actually be self-critical, um, and I've probably been more self-critical than what's healthy for people. Um, it's probably the hardest thing to acknowledge how you are shit in some areas and how you are inadequate in areas. But then also,
Hmm.
I know, yeah, sometimes I am sort of, I throw caution to the wind and I go for it without a second thought. And sometimes that's dangerous and sometimes it's not good. And I would probably be one of those that would be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger back in that, that time frame, because I poked the bear a little bit too much. But at the same time, understanding what my good qualities are, which is every single thing that I ever do is from good intention.
Hmm.
I never
That's
do
right.
anything from negative intention. And
Hmm.
sometimes, it happens where there's a negative outcome or there's a negative thing happen. But I know deep down that that was never, was never set out that way. And I will always apologize if I get the opportunity to. Um, so
Hmm.
moving from, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I've mentioned it in terms of the universe and the ether, and the most, it's difficult to explain to somebody that hasn't experienced the things that I've experienced and the things that you've experienced and the lessons that you've been taught, how would you explain that sort of universal and earth energy to people in a layman's way that helps them to sort of tap into it on their own, if that makes sense?
You mean the guidance, the
Yeah,
wisdom?
the
Yeah.
sort. So I know we've done a meditation before now where you obviously the visualization meditations where it's gaining light from the universe you become a channel and a beacon. And Esme does that at least once a week before bed with me.
Hmm.
And for somebody that hasn't had that meditative guidance
Hmm.
and maybe has sort of put this off as mumbo jumbo, which I know some people do, how would they tap into that, or what's the examples of it within their life that they can think, well, that makes a bit. So, for instance, I always explain to people that the ether or the energy that you exude is 100% real, and people can feel it, and
Hmm.
people receive that. And one of the examples that I always use is, for instance, if I haven't spoken to somebody for it's just happened today, funnily enough. So one of my very, 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 very old friends, I haven't spoken to him for at least a decade, at least a decade. And as you can see on my arm, I have Event Horizon, which is the black hole,
Uh-huh.
or what is perceived to look like a black hole. Um, and he's a tattoo artist in Manchester, and he put on the other day about it was basically an image of that, looking to tattoo that on somebody,
Huh.
and it was sort of the universe saying,
Connect.
connect, and um, I hope I've invited him to come on as a guest because his tattoos are amazing. He's really old school and stuff.
Huh.
Now I've learned to tune into that and
Mm.
see when those little synchronicities happen. How would you sort of explain to somebody um, how do you start looking out for these little synchronicities?
Mm. Well, there's a lot in that question.
Yeah, I don't
So,
make it easy, Kathleen.
yeah, no, there's a lot in that question because, I mean, the first thing to accept, and we were taught this in school in biology, is the first thing that we learn that everything is energy. But
Hmm.
people know that, but they don't know it in their bodies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, right, and so the very first thing to know is that that is absolutely true. Literally everything is energy. So we are entirely energy. You know, when you get right down to it, to the each cell, it's basically just energy. Everything is energy. The wall is energy, but it's very dense. So everything is energy, and therefore, all energy vibrates at a certain frequency. Okay. So, and you know this, right? Everybody
hmm
can experience. This is probably the first, like, this is probably our second call. Probably. I was telling you this. This is like 5 years ago. And,
yep.
and I was explaining this to you and you got it because you already knew. Um, but if you walk into a party and you're in a good mood and you see someone across the room and they are depressed, you know,
Mm.
you don't you can feel it from across the room, you can see it, you can feel it from across the room, and you're not going to be attracted to them because they're on a different frequency than you. So you're going to go, and similar, and the opposite is true also. So if you're depressed and you walk into a space, you're going to move towards somewhere where the energy is a little lower, and you're not going to be wanting to go dancing around the room flying high. So energy is attracted to like energy.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing to know. And the energy is all around us. So this relates to the 68 seconds as well, which I should do in a second.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So how do you experience it? Well, we're experiencing it every all the time. Like
yeah,
it's happening all the time. Like
yeah.
if you're, so I always say, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? So Lewis, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best you ever been and 1 is the lowest you ever been, where would you say you are right now?
I've been at sevens for the past probably 3 weeks. I've been journaling. I got back to journaling. So yeah, I think if you go back through my journal for the last 30 days, it's between a 7 and a 7.5 constantly, which is
Wow, I'd
awesome.
hate I'd hate to see you at an 8 or a 9,
I
because
know.
to me this is more like an 8 or a 9, your
Yeah, I
energy.
mean,
But anyway,
I must admit, 8 or 9 or 10 is almost maniacal. So
yeah, okay, okay. So anyway, so that's quite a high frequency. So that means that whatever you are doing in the world, whether it's having a conversation with me, whether it's you go into a coffee shop, you know, your interaction with the barista is going to be at a higher level. The coffee even that you get served is going to be a 7.5 level too, right? So it literally is instant. It's an instant thing, and we're doing it all the time. And people wonder, you know, they go into work feeling really depressed and they have a shitty day. They go on holiday and they're really excited when they wake up in the morning and they have a good day. It's all energy. So that's the first thing, is that it's always happening. And then the second thing is that synchronicities, yeah, literally synchronicities are happening all the time. But what you're talking about is that nice synchronicity when things just, and often that is when you're a 7.58. And when you get to be a 7.58, now the magic happens. That's the level where the magic happens. And that's where the right people come at the right time. The parking spot shows up right outside the restaurant,
yeah.
right? Like miracles happen in that 7.58 and above zone. And everybody can relate to that.
It's
They can.
almost like all the lights turn to green on your way home.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that sort of element. Yeah, the flow state is what
Yeah,
a lot of people sort of call it. But yeah, that's sort of where things just start dropping into place, and you think, oh, that links to that, and that links to that, and oh, and that links to that, and that. Yeah, for the past 30 days, that is 100% kind of what's happening, which makes me know for a fact that I'm on the path that I'm meant to be on, because everything kind of is dropping in around this rather than fighting against it. I'm not battling anything to get to what I want to do. It's just everything. So I seem to be riding the crest of the wave, which ties me into another upcoming guest, but pro surfer. But I'm riding that wave without any effort whatsoever. It's just carrying me along. And don't get me wrong, there is effort. Tell a lie there, but it's enjoyable. Every bit of it is enjoyable effort. And one of the age-old adages, I remember my granddad telling me this, is the fact that if you do something that you love for a job, you will never work a day in your life.
exactly. Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
so
Okay.
get my 68 seconds.
So then you said, how does one do that, right? So
Yeah.
how do you tap into that? How do you raise your vibration? Let's say, so, everyone on the call can just quickly say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm 6, I'm 7, I'm 8, I'm 4, right? A lot of people come to me when they're 3, 4. And the first job that we do is we begin to lift them a little bit. And one of the ways that you can do that, often it's perspective. So by changing your perspective and cutting out the self-criticism, often that lifts you right there. Often knowing that you're on the right track. Like you knew, even though you had the hardest 2 years probably of your life, that it was okay to do that, right? It was part of the path. So, but don't make wherever you are wrong is the point. Okay, but a really good tool, there's 2 tools, right? So there's 2 tools that are the most used tools that I use in coaching, probably because they're easy. And one is gratitude, which I'll say in a minute. And the second one is 68 seconds, which really generally I don't give away for free, but I will because it's so powerful.
Well, you heard it here first.
Yeah, it's so powerful. So basically this is, it literally takes 68 seconds. That's a minute and 8 seconds, and that's all it takes. And the principle behind, and all you're doing is you're saying, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be nice if? And the principle is when you focus on something for, I think it's 20 seconds. Is that right? I can't remember now because I haven't, I think it's 20 seconds or 17 seconds. There's like a momentum of energy building around it. Right? And then if you double it and double it again, you get 68 seconds. So now you have created a momentum about whatever it is you're focusing on. And you focus by what you think about, what you imagine, and what you feel. So that's how we focus. We're focusing all day long.
Hmm.
Usually we're focusing on what we don't want. We're
Yeah.
worrying. Okay. So this is a really good technique that takes 68 seconds to stop focusing on the worry, because literally you're attracting what you're worrying to you, and you're focusing on what you do want. And it works in two ways. One, energetically it works. And two, how often do we think about what would be really nice? Never.
Yeah, I know. That's
So
the. It's so surprising when I started doing it, and then obviously teaching it to Esme. The so she would, you know, we did it this weekend. So she had a game on Sunday. She had 4 games on Sunday actually. So she played back to back, and she played under 12s as well, being 10-year-old, which was amazing. But she worries, and she thinks, oh well, you know, what if I mess up? What if I let a goal in? What if I do? And that sort of negative, I've been there. That negative snowballs big time, to the point, and it can multiply, like you said, the other
It's
way.
exactly the same the other way. 17 seconds, attract 17 seconds, but now you're going down.
And it's that perspective shift. Like, perspective changes. It can change everybody's life. You know, I know there will have been people that listen to this podcast that are woken up this morning not happy in the house that they're in, not happy with the kitchen that they have or haven't got. They'll be not happy with the car that they have to drive to work. They'll be not happy with they might not be happy with their partner that they wake up next to. They might not be happy with the way that they them and their children interact with one another. They might not be happy with the job that they've got. But if you switch the perspective on every aspect of that, you got to wake up in a bed. There's people that have to wake up on cardboard outside a shop door. You know, think yourself lucky. There's people that have spent all their life alone, that have longed for somebody to be with them, and you're moaning and whinging that you're not happy with your partner that you get to wake up to next to every day. There's people that are widows and widowers that would long for one extra second with their partner that is no longer on this plane. And that sort of shift of perspective also changes that vibration. And
Totally.
you
Gratitude is very powerful.
build an aptitude for gratitude is what I always tell
Yeah, it's
Esme.
very, it's that's and it is like that. And there was an Instagram thing. I just love it. I may have shared it with you when it first came out. And it's this funny guy, and he wakes up in bed, and he's all wrapped up, and he goes like this. Have you seen it? And
No,
he
I don't
opens
think
up.
so.
He goes, "Oh my God, I'm alive!" It's cheesy, right? Super cheesy. And then he turns around, and there's this thing all wrapped up beside him, and he goes, "I have a wife." It's literally just what you said. And then the wife brings him a coffee, and literally, it's Christmas, and everything's wrapped up.
Everything's a gift.
He has a shower. He's like, "Oh my God, a hot shower!" And then and I have a car, I have a job. It's a bit cheesy.
That's
but anyway.
it. But we were saying that. I was saying that the other day with Adrian. It's like people that have a hot shower every morning. That wasn't a thing 60 years ago. It didn't exist. Nobody before 60 years ago ever had a hot shower, ever. And then we just get under it and think, oh, I've got to have a shower today. Oh, I can't be bothered.
It changes, right? So, and this is one of those things that takes discipline. Humans are hardwired to look for the danger, to look for where things are wrong. We're hardwired, and we have to work quite hard to change the focus.
Yes.
And so coming back to 68 seconds. So there are 2 rules. One, you can't ask for anybody else to do something. So you can't say, wouldn't it be nice if everybody at the dinner table told me how good the food was? Okay, you can't say that, because what you could say is, wouldn't it be nice if I felt that I'd made a really good dinner and it looked like everyone enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one is always speak in the positive. So you don't say, wouldn't it be nice if there was no traffic on the way to the airport, right? So what's the positive way of saying no traffic on the way to the airport?
If the roads were clear.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then all you do is you do it for 68 seconds. So you put a timer on your phone, 68 seconds, and you go. Now, the thing is to begin to think, and this is where we can use a bit of work. Well, what would be nice? And what first appears might be negative. I hope I don't miss a goal. right? Okay, but you can use that negative thought to help you with 68 seconds. He goes, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I blocked every single goal?
Yeah.
Now, can you see you can feel the difference? Wouldn't it be nice if I blocked every single, wouldn't it be nice if I blocked every single goal? Or I hope I don't let one in. Right?
It's the
The
negative.
reason
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's it called? This game, this
Technique.
the reason this technique works is not even because of the thoughts. It's actually the energy. So the energy is, I let a goal in. Okay, that's like 5. Wouldn't it be nice if I got to the end of the game and I've literally single-handedly blocked every single attempt? And that energy is much higher.
Yes.
So what's happening is you spend 68 seconds getting clear about what it is and how nice it would be, and that goes out to the universe like a boomerang, and then the energy of that comes back. So it might not be exactly specific to what you said, but generally you're attracting positive things, and often it is the thing that you asked for.
Yeah.
Okay.
100. Yeah. And honestly, I think there'll be people that listen to this that do take up that mantle and realize just how powerful that is. And if you want any more insights like that, then we'll share everything at the end of this call, and you can get in touch with Kathleen for more of that infinite wisdom. So, in terms of obviously raising vibrations and vibrational awareness, there's a really good book that it's I don't get kickbacks or anything off this, but there's a really good book on that sort of laid it out in terms that I understand a little bit more. It's a book by Vex King called Good Vibes, Good Life. And it's a really good book. The audiobook's narrated by his wife, I believe. And it's really, really, it really helped me understand the science element and the actual factual, because everybody goes into stuff like this a bit of a skeptic to an extent.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm like, in terms of the fact that I need to, if I'm going to go into something, I'm going to practice something, then I need to find everything there is to know about it, and I need to research it to the nth degree until I'm comfortable that it's worth my while and it's worth me doing and it's worth happening. And I do that with everything in my life. And that book really, really helped me sort of understand the science behind vibrational awareness and vibrating on a frequency that attracts certain elements or certain people or certain situations into your life, or you into their life, or you into that space. And that sort of brings us neatly onto the sort of manifestation elements. And I know, you see it on social media at the minute in terms of everybody, I'm going to manifest, I'm manifesting. And there is sort of a bit of tongue in cheek about some of them. But ultimately, you and I both know manifestation is 100% real. It might not be a recognized science in terms of the fact of biology, physics, and chemistry. But if you case studied it, in my opinion, to controlled situation, you would get the same sort of results where things manifest, and it works. And so how do you get from raising your vibrational awareness and getting on the same frequency to manifesting that life or partner or job, whatever it may be? How do you bridge that gap between raising your vibrational awareness and raising your frequency to actual manifestation?
Yeah, well, it's an inside job. And first of all, I'm going to say, you can manifest anything, right? The key is to be aligned with what you're manifesting. So that's where we get it wrong, right? You might think you want something, but your deep part of yourself doesn't. So a really important part of coaching is to help the person discover what they truly want, not what they want because they were told or brainwashed by society or their parents what they should want. This is really important.
Been there. That's
Yes,
that.
we all have.
Ultimately, that for the whole time that we were sort of coaching, like the one thing that I thought I wanted, and I was like, why is this not fucking manifesting? Why I'm
Yes,
doing everything that needs to be done, and it's because it was the one thing that that wasn't for me.
it's such a good example.
It wasn't the thing that was meant for me, and that was the
No,
sort of the aha moment when this all sort of came to fruition. It was like, it wasn't the universe and everything else being a dick. It was me being a
out of
ignorant
alignment.
and
That's
out.
all.
Well,
Well,
I
not out of alignment,
no,
just you weren't quite focused on the right thing.
yeah, I was expecting X when in fact it was Y that was ready for me,
Yeah.
and sort of naively thinking that I knew better, that, oh yeah, no, the universe will give me that because that's what I want, when in fact the universe doesn't ever give you what you want. It gives you what you need and what you're meant for.
Hmm.
um and yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's literally
Yeah.
exactly what I've been through.
It's really important. It's really important. And also when you're in alignment, yeah. So when you're in alignment, I would say in alignment, so it serves you to have this goal. It's meant for you. It's genuinely going to make you happy or uh, brighter or more satisfied in a deep way. You're literally halfway there. So that's the first thing. So finding the right thing. Also, so and then it's a matter of doing the inner work. So, for example, if you want, um, give me something that you want, Lewis.
um what do I want? I want to help people. That's where I'm sort of that's where my motivation lies at this moment in time. As much as I don't get me wrong, there's very much a selfish aspect to this podcast in terms of the fact that I get to speak to amazing people, and I'm very much an information hound in terms of the fact that um, you know, somebody speaking about a subject that I don't fully understand, I am glued and I am engaged, and that's the sort of selfish element to me. So if nobody listened to any one of these episodes, I would still get something amazing out of it. However, the sort of motivation for doing it is the fact of, for instance, the conversation that we're having now is, if there's one person somewhere in the world that is umming and ahhing, or in, put it one way, if somebody was in that limbo position that I've been in for the last 2-3 years, and this podcast was made by somebody else and this conversation was aired by somebody else, I would thank the universe so much, because without the lessons that you taught me and we'd gone through, I, I honestly, and it is, I don't think I'd have made it through. And as bad as that sounds, um, it's them sort of techniques that, when it's always darkest before the dawn, and it's that moment, and I've known that is coming because of the work that I've done. But then, if there's people in that position that haven't done that work and haven't done that research and hasn't had the lessons given to them that I was fortunate enough to have, I know where that leads, and it's not a good place that it leads to. And if this reaches one person, that and they go, thank fuck somebody gets it,
Mm.
then yeah, all this effort, all the booking of all the guests, and all the sort of time and the throat lozenges that I need to take, because it's conversation after conversation after conversation, is 100% worth it, because it's,
Mm.
I'm speaking over a microphone. I'm not sort of Fred Dibner going up a chimney 500 foot in the air and grafting my knackers off, which I've done previously. I'm speaking on a microphone. It's not hard. But what is hard, or what I have found hard about this whole process, is putting that vulnerability out there, regardless of whether I'm apprehensive of judgment, apprehensive of people going, not engaging with the content, but all I can do is show the truth. And this is what my truth has been. This is what has helped me. And yeah, it's that for me. I think that's the sort of the whole motivation with this, is to help. And I think for anybody listening, it persistence and keep going, because even though it might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years that it's hard for, a lifespan on average is 70. It's not the biggest portion of your life. It's the hard bit. Some of the most successful people in the world didn't become successful until they were 50, 60, 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my friends, and obviously I've spoken about them with you, are a lot older than me, 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And what I've often found without doing this, and I still fall into that trap, is, one of them's very wealthy, very successful. And I always find myself thinking, why aren't I at that level? And then I check myself and think, because he's had 20 extra fucking years than I have. And in 20 years' time, I might very well be at that or surpass it. But that comparison is...
And that's so interesting, isn't it? Because this is what we battle all the time. So what you just brought up, that's the ego part of you,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's not going to go away. It's your, even as as in alignment with yourself as you are now, that ego part still comes up. And then in the same breath, you're saying, but actually, I'm so satisfied and grateful for the life that I've created by myself. And, and then in the next breath, it's like, but how come I don't have what that person has? I also want that. And so it's about balancing. A good coach can work with both those parts, and we need to work with both those parts. So there's that, carefully,
Yeah.
because the if you don't work with that other part, the identity self, which has fears and hopes and limitations, they will sabotage you.
Mm-hmm.
So right, they will come up and say, like, you don't, no, you're not someone who has all of that money, Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you can't have that. And so that's when actually the real work of a coach begins. And that is when you're at a certain level and you're trying to get up that next rung. And you might not be in a bad place, but you want to get to this other level. And that's when the limitations on who you think you are come in. And that's when a good coach really gets down to work, because that's the deeper work. But to answer your question, I'm trying to answer your questions. So the question was...
You know what I'm like. I will literally, like a firecracker, go
You
left and
are.
right.
You are.
I'm trying a technique at the minute. I've got a little totem on the top of my desktop that if I start a subject, I will move it to a position. And then if I go off, I'll remind, it wasn't in that position. Oh, I need to get back to that topic again.
That's so great.
And it's slowly working.
Oh my
but
God,
it is
brilliant.
difficult.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. Okay, so your question was, it was, how do you use vibration to manifest what you want? Is that what the question was?
How do you marry that? So obviously, we've talked
Oh
about
yeah,
how
okay, I
to
remember.
raise vibration.
So I'm
Yeah.
not going to use your example because you're too close to being in alignment with the goal that you want, right? I'm going to give you a different. So let's imagine that somebody wants a beautiful relationship, right?
Hmm.
And they haven't been in a relationship for 5 years. But before that, they were in lots of relationships and they were all failed and they were all traumatic and dramatic and okay. But now they think, you know what? I'm ready for a relationship and um, and they think about all the things they want from that relationship, you know, that they're going to be and really enjoy their time together, have a nice attraction together. They're going to just get on really well, and it's just going to work really well, and there's just going to be joy, and they're going to be able to express themselves, and they'll like some of the same things and be able to spend time together. And I say, great. Now, on a scale of 1 out of 10, how would you rate that relationship? And they say 9 out of 10. And I say, great. And where are you today? 7 out of 10. That's the work to get yourself from a
Yes.
7 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. And that's the work. And you can do that on your own because otherwise I say you can have a relationship right now, literally, but it will be where you are right now,
Mm.
7 out of 10. Do you want a relationship that's only 7 out of 10? No, I want the 9 out of 10 one. Okay, then now is not the time to attract that. Right now is the time to put your, so what do you want? I want to feel loved. Right. How can you feel loved right now? I want to feel abundant. Okay, I want to feel, how can you feel abundant? There's a lot of work that needs to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
done before people are in alignment. And that's what you did in those two
Yeah,
years. You got in alignment with this.
I think that's I see that quite often, and I've probably done that in the last however 2-3 years without. I've not consciously done that. I haven't set out to do that,
No, but you
knowing
did.
right now I'm going to do this because of this and this, that, the other. But I think what people do quite often is, and using the relationship analogy, is the fact that the thought process or their perspective at that point is if I get somebody that is a relationship of 9.5, I will then easily get from a 7 to a 9.5 because it will make me feel better. And
Yes.
unfortunately, that doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. No, that is exactly what we do. When I have this relationship, then I can be a 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It does not work that way.
No, not
Yeah,
at
it's a
all.
really good point.
It's hard. I know it's hard, and so from personal experience, especially with this podcast, don't you know the whole the goal of this podcast is a studio where people can come and speak face to face, and we do this remotely at the minute, and it doesn't necessarily diminish the conversation, but that's down to how I hold the space, and it's a little bit harder than it is in person. Um, but I know for a fact that that's down the line. So I need to get into the role of this, and I need to become comfortable in this space, and then the studio will come, and the studio will happen, and this will happen down the line, and that will happen down the line. But it'll happen when the universe deems that I'm worthy enough to have that and be in that space. And at this moment in time, um, there's a guy, I can't remember his name. In fact, I'm not gonna not say his name because it's not fair. But I will find out 1 minute what his name is because he's brilliant guy. Um, this episode is sponsored by the Pendle Mushroom Company, pioneers in the world of functional fungi. They grow, harvest, and dual extract every mushroom right here in the UK, from lion's mane to cordyceps, for maximum purity, potency, and sustainability. Whether you're looking to boost focus, energy, or overall well-being, their tinctures are the real deal. No imported powders, no fillers, just science-backed mushrooms done right. And because you're part of the Cut the Shit community, you can get 10% off all tinctures with the code CTS10 at pendlemushroomco.com. That's CTS10 for 10% off. Unlock the power of nature with the Pendle Mushroom Company. bear with me one moment. I will find him. Yeah. It's a guy called, I don't know how you say it in. It's an Irish guy. It's spelled Caoilte. I don't know how you say that, but his last name's McLean, and he um, posts sort of motivational stuff on Instagram quite a lot. And he posted the other day about embarrassment, and it really struck a chord with me because it's what I've sort of been feeling putting myself out there. I'm not sort of a social media heavy guy. I never have been, and sort of putting myself out there, I felt awkward, and I felt, oh, I can't post that. I can't post that. I can't do that. And I've wanted things to be perfectly cut and perfectly sort of studio processed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking with one of the other guests in terms of on the other side of that embarrassment, on the other side of that feeling of embarrassment is your tribe. It's the people that you will resonate with and that your audience are. So
Mm-hmm.
I might feel like a pillock for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, but then the people who that content resonates with, they're my people. They're the people that I want to be speaking to. They're the people that I want to help, not the people that are saying that I look like a beardy weirdo with a bald head and so on and so forth, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it does come from jealousy, because the fact that they can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the goal or the bravery to be able to put themselves out there. So it's a tear down society and a tear down culture, and
Yeah.
it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, that's awesome in terms of, it's a really good way to sort of explain the manifestation, and I think we both know in terms of Rhonda Byrne, the power, the secret,
The
what's
magic.
the magic as well.
Well, they're all good, but the magic one is specifically about gratitude, which is
Yeah,
what you were already describing.
and that it's even say it doesn't work, say it's all mumbo jumbo, say even though it's not, but say it all is. Wouldn't you just do it to feel better? Because you always feel better after doing it personally anyway. So,
Mm-hmm.
as a bit of self care, just do it to feel better. Even if it doesn't change anything in your life, it
Well,
always feels better.
the problem is that, again, we are programmed to feel that the way to make change is to suffer.
Hmm.
So to feel bad, we think that that is the best way to get us motivated to make change.
Hmm.
It's counterintuitive to feel good about where we're at, because we're afraid that if we feel good, we won't make any change. But that's not the case. And all you can, and you can think about it like when you're feeling down, how likely are you to clean the house?
Yeah, not likely at
When you're
all.
feeling up, how likely are you to clean the house, right? It's really simple to see, but we have to combat that. So it really is a thing that people think in order to make change, they need to suffer and they need to stay
Hmm.
in suffering. But it blocks us.
Yeah, no, I get that. It is that sort of, and it comes down back to the perspective thing again, and
Yeah,
I sort of there's a lesson that I always, talking about aptitude for gratitude, there's a lesson that I love, called the 90-10 principle, that is if you've got kids and you want them to understand why things happen in the world, like maybe they got shouted at school, maybe one of their friends says that they don't want to be the friend anymore, maybe something negative has happened within their life, and as kids do, and my own child does the exact same thing, it's not their fault. There's no accountability with a child, because if you find a child with accountability, it's a very rare thing. And I always explain to my daughter in terms of the 90-10 principle is 10% of what happens in your life you can control. You have a direct control over. The 90% you have no control over whatsoever. You know, for instance, if you're on a road and you're in a traffic jam, you control your car. That is it. You can't control where the road goes. You can't control the other cars on the road. You can't control the traffic lights that are in front of you. You can't control the person that crashed 6 miles up the road. You can only control your car. And the problem is people curse the cars, curse the traffic, curse everything, but the fact that you chose to drive this way. You were the one that steered onto this motorway. You were the one that didn't set off an hour earlier. You were the one that didn't decided to book your appointment on this day. And if everybody just took that little bit of time to work out that accountability, the world would be a massively better place, I think.
Well, that's the problem, is that this is why I have to train people about how powerful they are, because again, it's not their fault, but we are not encouraged to be powerful. So people deny their power. So we live in a victim conscious world, right? Where that's victim consciousness. And boy, I sound like a nugget. You're making me sound good. I actually didn't realize I'm thinking, oh my God, like, what do I have to say? What do I know even? But and as I'm talking, I'm going, I know quite a lot. I think I know quite a lot, Lewis.
You've imparted a hell of a lot of wisdom onto me. And like I said, and you
haven't even worked with me for 2 years. You should see what I've been learning lately. I'm telling you, I'm on a whole new platform.
Well, you updated your operating system
completely.
So I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the work that we had done and the lessons and the techniques that I'd learned. And I don't necessarily mean here in terms of podcast. I don't know how I would have got through the last 3 years, which is it's shocking to say, and it is a stark realization, but it is true. Without these techniques and without that inner work that we have done together, people, it's given. Let me think about this, because it's before I went through the spiritual journey, and before I went through this therapeutic journey and the coaching journey with yourself, my opinion on people that committed suicide was selfish. They're selfish people. Selfish people to commit suicide, it's tapping out, it's quitting, it's, buck up, buttercup, that sort of sentiment. And having gone through what I've gone through, and I mentioned it to Carl, who's another one of my guests, that at the point where I was, where them thoughts were there, I acknowledged them thoughts, and I had the techniques to acknowledge them, observe them, and let them go. But knowing that I'm sat at that point and there is some space underneath this, which is where people go and do commit suicide and end it, is a really stark reality to hold. That and obviously subsequent to that, it's a newfound respect for men, women, whoever it may be, that do end their life, because you are not you. You are not the person that you were. You're not the person that you could be. You're barely even a person. You are just almost an entity of negativity and feelings, and there's a really good sort of and this is my own take, and I'm not saying sort of anybody that wrote the Harry Potter movies or the Fantastic Beasts movies use this as inspiration, but in I don't know whether you've seen them, but when there's the Obscurus, which is the creature that Credence is, I think his name is in it, which is like this magic. His magic has been suppressed so much that he turns into this creature that ultimately will kill him. And that's a really good visual representation of being in that position of you are almost suppressing who you could be, suppressing your magic that much that you turn into this different being completely. You are no longer the person that everybody else sees. You're no longer the father, the partner, the colleague, the son, the daughter. You are something else entirely, and you can quite easily put on that mask and put on that facade and be the son, be the father, be the partner, and it's all, oh yeah, brilliant. And you see it all the time, like the happiest people. Robin Williams, is a prime example. They are the ones that end their life because it's easy to put on that mask because you're not showing the true self, because you're afraid if you show your true self, people will recoil in fear because it's so dark and dismal and negative. And
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, when you walk into a room and there's that vibrational frequency of,
Mm-hmm.
you won't gel with somebody at a different, at that point, you don't feel like you would connect with anybody at all in the world. So what's the point? And the same thing is, you feel like you're never going to change. You're never going to get better. This is only downhill from here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think what I sort of just just to sort of reach out and say, look, I've been there. There is a way out. And it's hard. It's not easy. It is fucking difficult. But using techniques that we've gone through, and using um, reading and researching and listening to people's experiences will help massively. Um, and if you can use use these techniques and use books and use people like yourself that know that path and can help you out of that maze, rather than going down in that slippery slope. Um, so yeah, that's basically where I was at, and I think, um, sort of trying to bring bring up the mood again a little bit. The sort of beauty of it, and
But that, let me just sort of speak to that. And as you were sharing that, the space in the room changed.
mm,
Yeah. And it became rich because there was authenticity and there was vulnerability and there was space. And it's not, there's no judgment. You're not judging yourself. And isn't it, it's beautiful, right?
mm,
But people think, again, this is because people don't know how. We weren't taught how to be with the deep pain.
mm,
They don't know how to handle it, and they don't think anybody else can handle it, and they think it's ugly, but it's not. It's beautiful. So the dark part of someone and the light part of someone are both beautiful aspects, but we're not taught that. But you could feel the
mm,
beauty, and anyone listening can feel the beauty of that when you were speaking. The
mm,
truth. People can feel the truth. They can feel the vulnerability, and they can connect to that, maybe more than anything else that we've talked about on the call.
I appreciate
And
that.
that's what is needed when
Mm,
people are going through the dark times, that they are not shunned for having problems, that they are listened to and heard, and that it's actually very beautiful. You know, when someone cries, when they're not just crying and complaining, but they're just crying
Mm-hmm.
and they're apologizing. I'm sorry for crying. I'm sorry for crying. But I never feel that way, and I'm sure you don't, that when someone cries like that, I know that they feel safe with me.
Hmm.
And I know that they're releasing energy that they need to release, and I know that that's something real for them. And I went into coaching because I don't like the bullshit.
No.
I'm not great at it. I'm not interested in it. I like to go deep with people, and I've always done that. And I'm in a profession where I get to do that, and I celebrate the depth. I don't, and so that's something, that we all need to get a little bit better at. And I needed to get better. I needed to learn, and I have been training myself to be able to be with my deepest shadow side.
Mm.
And that's how and that's enriched myself as a coach, but also for my own self. And we all need to do that. We all need to have more space for the shadow parts of ourselves, because they make us who we are, and that they make us special.
Yeah.
So don't shun the shadow, is what I'm saying.
No, I suppose it's probably the first time, and I think that's testament to yourself. It's the first time that I've actually spoken it out loud. I know it's going to be probably listened to by thousands of people, which is awesome. But it's just that I think to be honest, it's probably a British thing. Like we were saying, I think before we started recording, is that sort of, oh, shut up, just get on with it. And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, there is a time and a place for that, and I'm very much of that mindset of like, I if I stop too long, my brain overheats, and if my brain overheats, then the turbo blows and I end up screaming and it goes crazy, and that's probably been one of the most difficult things that and probably contributed to that sort of downward spiral over the last 2-3 years, is the fact that since 14 years old, I'm now 37, it's been all go, on go, working constantly, like this job, next job. Oh, I got fired. I've now got a new job 2 days later, and it's, oh right, well, I've kind of done everything I wanted to do in that job. I'm going to start a business, and then I'm going to start this business. Oh, that business failed, but I'm going to start this business now, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and it's always been onto the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing, based on the fact of what I thought I wanted, which was the money. And then when all that stops, it's almost like redlining a car. So you've got your foot to the floor on the accelerator pedal, but you haven't put it in gear. And I'm in the garage and I'm just revving the bollocks off an engine, and I've got nowhere to go because I haven't got a gearbox, and it's just the engine blew up basically.
Lewis, I need to interrupt you for 1 second. I need
It's
to
okay.
I'm going I don't know. I need to plug my phone in
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We
and
can edit it out.
change
Yeah, it's okay.
my speakers probably. 1 second, you can edit it out, okay?
So we haven't stopped recording, so we're back in the room, and yeah,
Is it
so
recording now?
yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of like that engine blowing blowing up, and the one thing that sort of helped uh, on top of, I think it helped in the, because it doesn't help in that position, because to sit alone with your own thoughts is not a very good place to be when you're in that sort of mindset, and in that sort of area. But when you start to sort of climb out of that pit of misery to an
Mm-hmm.
extent, the meditations that, so obviously we've done countless meditations together over the years, and you've led meditations, and we've done meditations together, and you've pointed me in the direction of books, and the books that I read. I mean, one of the best meditations that there's two that I regularly do, which is the healing light meditation, which comes in through the top of your head and around your body, and that I do that at least once a week, and it's amazing. And then the second one comes from Robin Sharma, which was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And if you read the synopsis of that book, it sounds so far-fetched and stupid, it's unbelievable. It's a 9-foot tall sumo wrestler that wears a pink G-string that lives in a lighthouse in the middle of a garden. walks on a golden path walks on a diamond encrusted path every day, and his favorite possession is a gold pocket watch. And each one of them items within that story represents an element within somebody's life. So obviously, a gold pocket watch is all about time and how much time you've got left on this plane of existence. The diamond encrusted path is your path of life. The lighthouse is your control center, your safety zone. The garden is your mind, and the 9 foot tall sumo wrestler is your strength. The G string is your modesty and your humility, and it's such a really good sort of visual meditation to do.
Mhm.
Um, and I think from the outside looking in, or from the inside looking out, I see a lot more, a lot, much more of a warmer reception to practices of meditation nowadays than when I first started meditating. Um, how do you think it helps, and how do you sort of negate the conflict between sort of the meditation and then applying that into everyday life, and doing it in everyday life, because it's not easy to sort of sit down and practice. You and I both know doing a meditation for anything over 20 minutes a day is fucking hard, really
Mhm.
hard. How do you practice that? How do you culture that practice?
Well, first I'm going to answer why is it important? Because when something is important, you do it.
Mm,
So I mean, and it's important on a few different levels. One is, again, it's coming basically in our society today, we think that we are our thoughts. And that's a problem because we're not our thoughts. And our brains are designed to help us figure things out and think things through. They are tools, but they are not who we are.
mm,
And the purpose, one of the purposes of meditation is to see the difference.
mm,
Because otherwise, you ask anybody, they think that they are their thoughts,
yeah.
but we're not. And we are much, 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 much more than our thoughts. And so that's what meditation does. In meditation, what we're trying to do is control the brain, which has gone completely bonkers because we live in a society that's so fast. We need our brain, and it's getting worse and worse. Our brains are going and firing 100 miles an hour, and they're going faster and faster and faster because there's a demand to go faster with apps and texting back and the speed of life that we have created. So more than ever, we need to find a way to slow down.
Mm,
And the way to do that is to slow our thinking down, right? And just get a little break from all of that thinking. And then another reason that that's important, aside from just that restfulness and that spaciousness that you can access as if you're on holiday, is that when you cultivate a practice of meditation, you can connect to many other things. So you can connect to the highest version of yourself.
mm,
You can connect to your soul. You can connect to wisdom.
yeah.
You can connect again to that place where there is all wisdom across all time and space. So, but really, initially, the very first thing is just to be able to have some control over your brain.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it will run you. Your brain, our brains are running us.
that cultivation of that relationship with your inner dialogue
That,
is so important to the fact that when you're like now, my brain is 6,000 miles an hour, and people could probably tell when I'm in these conversations with people is I'll go off on a tangent because that's just twigged my interest in that, and I'll go down there, and that's why I'm sort of trying to use the totem method to just bring it back to that realm of thought, because then what will happen is the conversation will end and the episode will end, and then at 10 p.m. tonight I'll go, oh shit, I didn't explore, I didn't get back to that, and we left that open. I've done it on every single episode I've recorded so far. I've gone, oh fuck, I missed that bit and I missed that bit. So but it's fine, because obviously I'll get them back on in future and so on and so forth. But I think the good thing to sort of exercise that inner dialogue is because when your brain starts running away with itself on, say, a situation that's negative, for
That's
instance,
right.
you've you've got a speeding ticket, and your brain start, or you go through a speed camera and it flashes and you think, oh shit, I've got a speaker, and your brain starts going. It's good to be able to psychologically and mentally interrupt that thought and go, hang on, there's nothing you can do, calm down, just deal with it when it happens. And if it happens, a lot of them don't have filming anyway. Calm down, relax, and just get on with your day. And to be able to put that stop in place on a situation like that in my experience, only comes from that practice of having conversations with yourself and speaking with yourself, and through meditation, and recognizing, there's a real, you mentioned, like, people think that they are their thoughts, and or their thoughts. What? Yeah, that's what you said, wasn't it? People think that they are their thoughts. And there's a really good quote by Jay Shetty, and it took me a while to sort of figure it out, even though I understood the sort of logistics of it. Is I'm not what I think I am, and I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think that you think that I am.
Uh-huh.
And when you kind of run that back and you think about it, that is how the world perceives you as a person. And in essence, externally at least, that is the true version of yourself. Because and to marry that with your internal dialogue, takes a lot of practice. And you and I both know yogis and Buddhists that have been doing meditation for 40, 50, 60 years and do it every single day for hours on end in pure silence, still haven't mastered the art of meditation. And I don't think anybody ever does. I think it's just a practice that needs to, well, that's why it's called. It's a practice. It's every single day. And I try at least
Me
every
too. I
day.
stopped doing it for 3 months and it made a big difference. And I've started doing it in the last week and it's already made a difference. I noticed the biggest change when I started to meditate. I'd never been able to meditate my whole life. My brain, I was too busy and I had too much inner critic going on. But then I started to once I noticed some magic happening. Like you said, when you get to be an eight, and I noticed that with meditating. So I don't really know why that happened. I just noticed that life started to go better when I practiced meditation.
Hmm. it it's
Yeah,
almost,
like skyrocketing, like
yeah,
in a profound way.
very noticeable. And I think it gives you that, say it's 5-10 minutes of a morning, it gives you that stop the world, I want to get off moment, to be with. I challenge anybody listening to this now. um I listen to podcasts when I'm traveling in the car, and anybody that's traveling in the car now, I challenge you. I'm telling you to switch this off, switch this episode off, and just spend the rest of the journey in silence. No radio, no talking if somebody else is in the car with you, and just spend the rest of the journey in silence. And if it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you'll realize how fucking difficult it is. It is so
Hmm.
difficult to sit with yourself in complete silence
Hmm.
and understand that your brain is begging for you to almost
Listen.
notice it and listen. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, your brain, and then lately I've been listening to my body as well. I've literally only in the past sort of 4 or 5 days been able to meditate, and I meditate for half an hour a day on my own. So if you find it hard, you don't get any brownie points for
No.
how you meditate. So if you, I for one, have always listened to a guided meditation. There's nothing wrong with that. There's so many, there's like those apps on Netflix, like Headspace or whatever.
Mm.
And there's so many, and there's such a variety. You can find some that might guide you somewhere, or you can find some that are just somatic, like body
Yeah, yeah.
connection, where you just kind of, like you said, breathing the light down, or you can just find some where you're listening to music. So there's no brownie points. And also it's going to be hard. Like it's probably going to be hard initially,
It's
and that's
100% going to
okay.
be hard. Yeah,
That's okay.
it's not even now. And like you've said, you stopped meditating and you find it difficult. I Every single morning I get up and I try and do the 15 minutes. And some mornings I get up and I think I'm not in the right headspace today. And you know I will sit there in silence, but it's not in essence active meditation like the way that we know it's meditation.
Apparently that's okay.
But yeah, but it's
Uh,
good. It's good enough. It's good enough
yes.
to sit there in silence and do nothing. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's awesome to sort of catch up because we haven't spoken in a while. And I'm pretty certain this episode will help countless people understand their power and realize their power, and hopefully step into it a little bit more and chase their purpose, their dharma, and chase their dreams, and maybe take up the practice of meditation, maybe take up the practice or read a couple of the books that we've mentioned, and better yet, maybe they'll get in contact. So how do they get in contact with you? Because I think you mentioned that there's a free taster session for one-on-one coaching from
Yeah.
yourself. How do they
Yeah.
get in contact with yourself?
They can just email me. It's Kathleen with a K, Kathleen dot Hartley, Hartley at live.co.uk.
And I couldn't recommend enough.
No,
Uh,
you've done that a lot. You don't need to recommend me anymore. No, Lewis, you know what?
so
This is the first time that I've ever sort of spent any time really looking at what I bring to coaching and how I coach and the things that I include in coaching, and it's been really, really valuable for me. But I mean, that's why I offer a free session, because I have such a hard time usually explaining what I do. This is literally the first time I've probably ever done it so thoroughly, and I'm really grateful for that. And it does give people an idea of who I am and how I work, but I still want to offer that
yeah, I
one-on-one
think
coaching session, and there's no obligation to take out a block. It's just to meet
no,
me, to work with me. And like you, it's a bit like you, it's a bit like a podcast. Like when that person comes on the call, I am 100% there. Like I
yeah,
love meeting new people and hearing what's already going well and what they struggle with, and then helping.
yeah. I think it's one of it is very difficult to sort of quantify, especially in like sort of therapeutic sense or coaching sense. It's very difficult to quantify what I've had several therapists and coaches and so on and so forth, and if like you asked, I'm sure you asked me at the start of the call before we went live, like, and it's a very difficult thing to quantify what you've done for me personally, and what I've seen you do for other people, and vice versa with my other therapists and coaches. It's not just one thing, and it's not just one, and it's not results that you see straight away at all. We haven't spoken over 12 months on a one-on-one basis, and the results that from our work are happening now, not when
That's a
we
good
were
point.
still, and it's and I will see results when I'm 60 through the lessons that we've
Hmm.
explored together, and it's one thing that I would push anybody and everybody. I would recommend, whether it's you or whoever,
Hmm.
explore. that
Yeah.
relationship with yourself so deeply to the point that there's nobody on this planet that knows you better than you.
That's beautifully said. That is what it's all about.
Yeah.
It really is, because you know you best, and also, yeah, that's absolutely beautiful.
And we'll end on that. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you very much, Kathleen.
Thanks,
And
Louis.
yeah, see you next time, everybody.
That was great. Thanks a lot.